It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C. Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C. Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you watch, whenever you listen. And I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. And you can get a copy of this book right now. I mean, right now, while you're watching or listening to this show, just visit barnesandnoble.com, or better yet, visit amazon.com. If you're looking to get a signed copy, just drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by BillyCBoxing.com. Check it out. All the latest and greatest boxing news and some news that you might not see anywhere else, plus updates on this very show, BillyCBoxing.com. And also, today's show is being brought to us by the Blackett Shopping Network. You're looking to get anything you want online and you want to save a big dollars, visit the Blackett Shopping Network. You can go to our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click the banner. And finally, today's show, she's being brought to you in part by this year's Florida Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend. It takes place June 20th, 21st, 22nd, and I'm honored to be part of the 2025 class. I can't tell you how happy I am, and I hope you can join us, me, and all the other inductees on that weekend. It's going to be a great time. Just visit our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame banner for all the information. I've already made all my plans, of course, and I can't wait. I can't wait for June. I can't wait for the snow to go away here in Lake George, New York, but that's a whole nother story. And I can't wait for our governor to go away, but that's another story too. Hey, listen, today's show, we got a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, but first, let me give you some fight results, give a shout out to Jesus, who's numero uno in the chat room, first guy in the chat room, and he says, hey, Billy C, I hear they won't overturn the Roach decision to a win. I'm going to comment on that fight, whose fault I think it is, and all that stuff, but let's get some of these fight results out of the way that were on that card, and the aforementioned Tank Davis, he's now 30 wins, no losses, and a draw, with 28 of his wins coming by knockout. And Lamont Roach, he's 25, 1 and 2 draws, with 10 of his wins coming by knockout. And Lamont Roach is the current WBA super featherweight or junior lightweight world champion. Tank Davis is the WBA lightweight world champion. They were fighting for the WBA's lightweight world title in Brooklyn, New York last week. One judge scored it 115, 113 for Davis, and the other two had it 114, 114, making this fight a draw. The big controversy here was the non-called knockdown, but hold that thought. In other action on that card, Gary Antoine Russell improved to 18-1 with 17 knockouts when he picked up the WBA super lightweight world title over Jose Valenzuela, who drops to 14-3, 120 to 108, 119, 109, and the third judge had it the same, 120. Also, Alberto Pulo retained his title by a 12-round decision over Sandor Martin to improve to 24-0 with 10 knockouts. Martin drops to 42-4. The scores on that one, two had it 115, 113, one had it 116, 112. Yoenis Tellez improved to 10-0 with 7 knockouts when he defeated J-Rock Williams. What happened to J-Rock, man? He was such a a talented fighter. 12-round decision, 109, 119, 109, 118, 110, 117, 111 was the scores. And in the super welterweight division, Johan Gonzalez improved to 36-4 when he scored a 10-round split decision over another guy that was such a force in the division. Jared Hurd, he drops to 25-4 with a draw. The scores in that one, 98-92, 96-94 twice for actually 96-94 and 98-92 for Gonzalez, and one judge had it 96-94 for Hurd. Okay, so here's the deal. In this fight, well, what prompted me, let me read you, give a shout out to my man Coach, who I'm going to read an email from him right now, and my man Joel. He says, hey, Billy C, was wondering what your thoughts on the Davis Roach rematch. His opinion is that there shouldn't be one. He said, forget the quick money grab. Those responsible, Allah, it should be the overturned, like the overturned fight with Jeff Fennick's controversial draw against Azuma Nelson in 1991, and the Louis Resto's unanimous decision over Billy Collins after they changed that to a no contest. He cited some other ones. But here's the thing. The big problem with that fight was the non-knockdown that was called and then not called by referee, referee with his eyes all googling out, Steve Willis. Look, I want to point out, this was a travesty. Okay, now it's hard, to overturn the fight. In my opinion, I think this fight should have been ruled a no contest, and the WBA should have ordered an immediate rematch. Now, when I say a no contest, because it was controversial to the rules of boxing. And I also believe that a statement should have been made by the WBA to actually put the title in limbo. In other words, don't immediately award it to Tank Davis. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want to start hearing from all the haters that are going to tell me that I don't like Tank Davis. I love Tank Davis. I think he's one of the best fighters out there. I personally think he took Lamont Roach Jr. lightly, just like I did. If you watched this show last week, I predicted that this wasn't even going to be a competitive fight. Boy, was I wrong. It was an extremely competitive fight. During the fight, we find out later that Davis is telling Roach, it's basically saying in his ear, you're never going to win a decision here, blah, 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 which I think is ridiculous. And I don't like hearing that from a fighter to another fighter. That only opens up more cans of worms, in my opinion, about the validity of the call. So if you missed it, here's what happened. There was the action was taking place, and all of a sudden, Tank Davis takes a knee. Now, Willis, googly-eyed Willis, starts to count. He starts to count because he should have, and so did the timekeeper. The timekeeper started to count. Then all of a sudden, he stops to count. Davis, there's something in his eyes, and then he did something even worse. He not only stopped the count, which was clearly a knockdown, because I'm going to go over the rules here in a second, was clearly a knockdown. He lets his corner start wiping the so-called grease that's in his eyes. Okay, that is totally not legal to do. You are not, the only person that can stop a fight in the middle of a round is either the referee to have a ringside physician take a look at a cut. That's it. Or if there was some debris thrown into the audience, from the audience into the ring, or something like that. Or if there was water on the ring and it was slipping, he could stop the action. That's it. That's the only reasons. You don't let a fighter. That's like, or if a mouthpiece falls out, that's like saying, hey, ref, I need a breather. I'm out of air. Can you go? Okay, time out. Hey, you take a couple of breaths. Get your win back. Okay, you're good. You feel good now? Okay, let's continue the round. Bullshit. You can't do that. All right. And Steve Willis made a huge mistake. I don't like it. It smells to me. Okay. And then the New York State Athletic Commission, who, listen, let's be real. The New York State Athletic Commission has had its problems. It's got one of the New York State. Listen, I'm a New Yorker. I love New York. I've had opportunity to move out of this state. I mean, I have a lot of complaints about this state, but I'm a New Yorker. I stay here. I can't stand what's happening to this state. I can't stand the liberal governor that we have that's ruining lives of correctional officers right now, saying it's not legal to strike. What do you mean it's not legal? It's a union. Unions can strike. All these things. And New York State Athletic Commission is no different. They've had their ups and downs. Just ask Thomas Hauser. Thomas Hauser has made a career out of pointing out all of the negatives on the New York State Athletic Commission. Okay? Facts are facts are facts. I've had my own run-ins with the New York State Athletic Commission when I promoted here in New York State. Okay? It used to be a very corrupt commission. I'm not familiar with the commissioner right now, so I'm not going to make a comment. But I will tell you this. The commissioner prior to the one now, Ms. Latham, I've witnessed firsthand the way they treat. I mean, it was like a family thing. It was like a clique. If you belong to the clique, you got stuff approved. If not, you went through a hassle. Totally not cool for a governing body. Okay. And for them to blame this on a technical issue. Now, you know what the technical issue was, right? They said that they went to go to the review, to the videotape, and they couldn't produce the tape quick enough in between the rounds. And so they had to stay with the changed decision that Steve Willis made. That's a bullshit answer, boys and girls. Bullshit. Because all of that is tested. And they saw it happen. It unfolded. It was a mistake. The knockdown, the initial out of just automatic for the referee Willis to call that a knockdown was definitely a knockdown. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. What happened here? He changes his mind. Then he lets him wipe the grease out of his face. Are you effing kidding me? That's ridiculous. New York State better do something about this. Now, here's the thing. Let me explain the rules to you, boys and girls, because they're everywhere, all right? And I'm sure you could look it up right now. For shits and giggles, I went and Googled. Let's use Google. Today's youth, they Google it. You can't even bullshit in a bar anymore on a bet, all right? Because somebody will whip out their phone and Google something. Nah, you're wrong. It was a day before you said, years ago, you could win a few bucks because of a technicality. Not today, thanks to Google, all right, and AI. But here, if you Google what is considered a knockdown in boxing, this is what comes up. The AI overview, okay? Artificial intelligence overview says a knockdown in boxing occurs when a boxer touches the ring floor with any part of their body other than their feet. It can also happen if a boxer is hanging on the ropes and can't fall to the ground. Okay, anybody, I would think that most people that are watching or listening to this show already knows that, right? So I decided to ask it again. I'm like, okay, what is counted as a knockdown in boxing? And a knockdown is defined. This is what came up under Google. A knockdown is defined when a boxer is knocked to the ring canvas by fair blows or hangs helplessly on the ropes, or the ropes prevent his or her fall, or any part of the body other than the soles of the feet hit the canvas. All right. That includes your glove. All right. That includes your glove. All right. So then I said, okay, let's try and trick it. Right. Is a glove, I questioned. I said, is a glove touching the canvas considered a knockdown in boxing? Now, remember, you got to be careful when you Google, the choice of verbiage is important, right? So the AI overview. Remember, my question is a glove touching the canvas considered a knockdown in boxing? AI says, yes. When a boxer's glove touches the canvas, it's considered a knockdown in boxing. This can happen voluntarily or involuntarily. End of story. It's a rule. And Steve Willis and the New York State Athletic Commission let it slide. Because of what? Because of money? Somebody got a cut? Somebody got dinner paid for them? Please, come on. All right. Now, Then they go on to explain that comment. They say, AI, I'm talking to AI like they, right? And they didn't even tell me what pronouns they wanted me to use. And an explanation: a knockdown occurs when any part of the boxer's body other than the soles of their feet touches the canvas. A knockdown can happen after a legal blow or a series of blows. A boxer can be considered knocked down if they hang on the ropes or after a blow. And the referee signals a knockdown by audibly counting, which Steve Willis did. He did. Okay. So then I took it one step further. All right. I took it one step further. I went to the referee's manual. There's a manual for referees that they're supposed to study before they become licensed as a licensed referee for professional boxing. Okay. And there's a section in there that says the knockdown/knockout, right? It says in the event of a knockdown, the referee should make sure the standing boxer goes to the farthest neutral corner and then picks up the count from the timekeeper because he would have already signaled. And they emphasize, do not rush. And then they point out that a boxer shall be deemed knocked down when due to a legal punch or punches or any part of their body other than their soul touches the canvas. How many more times do we got to see it? How many more times? It's a clear rule, okay? It's a clear rule. All right. And it was overseen, and it was blatantly, it was an error. It was a scam, and it was not fair to Roach. Okay. Now, the fight was a close fight. You hear me say this all the time. All right. You can't, okay. So they all say, well, if that was ruled a knockdown, if you look at the scores, that would have given him a win. Okay. All right. Well, it's hard to do that. All right. It's hard to do that. But what they could have done was ruled it, because of this error by Steve Willis and the New York State Athletic Commission, they could have ruled it a no contest and forced a rematch. Because if you recall, after the fight, Tank Davis said, oh, yeah, we're going to have a rematch. I don't know if it'll be the next fight, but, it's like, what the F are you talking about? What do you mean it's not going to be the next fight? That's not fair to Roach. The kid fought hard. Tank Davis, did everything he could to win, and the fight was a close fight. The WBA should have immediately ordered a rematch. Did they? No. They issued a statement, and this is what they said, which pissed me off even more. They said, from our perspective, Willis's decision was not unreasonable or unjustifiable. He ruled in real time that Davis had not been struck by a punch before going down, and therefore no knockdown should be recorded. Judges, by regulation, must follow the referee's rulings. They do not have the authority to override his decisions or knockdowns. Some skeptics have suggested that Willis's call benefited Davis unfairly, but we do not subscribe to that notion. In our long experience judging fights, we see no evidence of favoritism, only a referee prioritizing the physical safety of a fighter who appeared compromised by an eye injury. One thing is clear. The boxing world is already clamoring for a Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach rematch. The controversy, the drama, the high stakes, the demand for a sequel is now. And the WBA says, but now it's up to the promoters to make it happen. I'm going to say it again. That's bullshit. It's up to the WBA. And you know what? This is such a scam statement, and I'll tell you why. Because they said that that he ruled in real time that Davis had not been struck by a punch before going down. No, he ruled in real time that he saw that Tank Davis glove hit the ground. That's why he started counting. And then he hears, oh, I got something in my eye. Oh, okay. Hey, clean up his eye. What are you talking about? Muhammad Ali, I'll go back. Okay, one of my favorite fighters of all time, Sonny Liston, was in a fight with Muhammad Ali. And if you recall, there was some kind of substance on his glove that was in Ali's eyes. They push him out. They go, just do your best to clear your eyes. They didn't stop it to let him wipe his face off. The only time I saw that happen was a fight in Russia. I forget the two fighters, but a guy got cut, and they practically let the ring doctor stitch him up and then let the round continue. That's the only thing that I ever saw live in a boxing match that even resembled this. And this was horrific in my opinion. And then for the sanctioning body to basically close their eyes to this is total bullshit. It's total bullshit. This fight 100% should have been ruled a listen, it should have been ruled a knockdown. And then however the scores came out. I disagree with Coach saying that they're going to have to reverse the decision because they let the rest of the fight go on. I could see a fair thing saying, hey, listen, there was an error that took place. It tainted the outcome of this fight. We're going to rule it a no contest and, put that title on hold, which would force Gervonta Davis into giving Lamont Roach the rematch. I've never seen it. Coach is killing me. He thinks he's watching he says, I thought I was watching a Kansas City Chiefs game. Yeah, I know. They say the Chiefs get the referees, but it was blatant. It was not fair. It was not fair. And you know something? First of all, you would hope that fighters only have to fight one opponent when they're in the ring. The guy in front of them. When they got to fight judges and they got to fight referees, it's really not fair. This kid Lamont performed beautifully, way above what I thought. I'm going to just read a couple of comments that's going on here in the chat room. Papa says the Turkey TKO Boxing League can't get here fast enough. Soon enough, the ring belt will be the only belt that matters again. The sanctioning bodies are on borrowed time. Listen, I said this. I wish you guys would go back and watch my show from a couple of weeks ago. Didn't I say this? I said he's got the power. Now that he's got the Ring magazine and, all these fighters. Listen, the only reason why the problem with fighters and having a league, so to speak, are the sanctioning bodies, because a different promoter can step in and they could say, look, I know you're part of this league, but we're going to offer you this much to fight for our belt. And the next thing you know, the fighter, they're gone. Okay. But when you have a guy like Turkey Al-Rashid who's got the money, nobody's going to be able to compete with him. It's a great idea. And I hope that they squeeze out the sanctioning bodies, because the sanctioning bodies is contributes to it. But again, this fight was a great fight. It really was. And I think that this decision, this terrible call it was a good call, then a no call, then a no backing from the New York State Athletic Commission, and then a double no backing, closing their eyes to the WBA, the same organization that has the balls to award somebody a regular world title and a super world title. I mean, come on, guys. Come on. Let's be real. All right. I mean, I'm appealing to older fans who recognize and have been around long enough. But even to you young whippersnapper fans, okay, that look at the 80s as, a time way back in the day, all right, even you guys got to admit that was terrible. And that can't be allowed. That referee, he's got the googly eyes. He's in. Listen, the best referees in boxing? The best referees in boxing are the ones that you start talking about a fight and you start remembering the fight and you can't remember who the referee was. That's a good referee. You know why? Because it's fighter A versus fighter B. It's not fighter A versus fighter B featuring referee Steve Willis. No, it's not. A good referee should be out of the camera shot, should not be trying to coin their phrases, should not be trying to, you got referees that are practically fighting with one of the fighters, pushing and warning and doing all this stuff. A good referee is a referee that stays out of the camera shot and you don't even remember. All he's in there for is to protect the fighters and to protect the people that are involved. That's it. If somebody's hitting below the belt or somebody's doing something illegal or if they're holding too much, that's the referee's job. He's not there to make a performance. He's not there to be recognized. He's not there to get camera time. He's not there to invent coin phrases. He's there to referee a friggin' fight. And Steve Willis, out of automatic, because he's been doing this for a long time, knew damn well that Tank Davis should have been considered a knockdown when his glove touched that canvas. And then all of a sudden, some light bulb went off. He remembered that he wasn't supposed to let that happen, or something ridiculous. Somebody, maybe the puppet, maybe the string, maybe they pulled that string that he was on and reminded him that he shouldn't let them do that. And then he let them wipe his face. I've never seen anything like it except in Russia. Okay, so that's my opinion. The truth of the matter is, and yeah, that's right. I'm ready to have a heart attack. David Sevlin is just reminded me. I forgot all about this. He should have been DQ'd because at that time the round was still going. The trainer got in the ring, got on the ring apron. That's illegal. That fighter should have been disqualified. David Sevlin, thank you for reminding me about that. That's a whole nother aspect I forgot totally about. All right, and he's 100% right. There's no timeouts in boxing. There's no pause unless there was a cut. There was no cut. Water? Can I get a sip of water while I'm here? It was terrible. Terrible. But in any event, some news. I don't want to keep going here, but some news in the sport. And again, this is only in boxing, right? We had there's a 25. I don't know if you caught this, but it's been all over the boxing news, and even ESPN carried it. $25 million lawsuit going against Top Rank and Todd DeBuff. Apparently, there was some money owed, and it's all stemming from the deal that they were allegedly making behind the scenes with Tyson Fury's alleged mobster connections. And now they're suing it. The manager is suing Todd DeBuff. His name is Billy Keane. And, it's funny because Todd DeBuff is saying, oh, well, Bob Arum knew nothing about it. I was doing this behind the scenes. So, and ESPN, they're accusing, they're making it seem like ESPN canceled the contract, which, you know what, I didn't realize ESPN was paying Top Rank $90 million a year for this contract to put the shows on. $90 million. I mean, no wonder why Top Rank is nervous. I got a comment here, which is totally right. My man Frank says referees' duties protect the boxers, protect the integrity of the sport, the officials and the organizers to see that whoever wins the bout does so on their own accord with no influence or lack of by the referee or the judges. And this is true. Again, we all know this. How did the New York State Athletic Commission get away with saying, oh, yeah, we really couldn't rule on the spot because it was a technical thing? You mean nobody was watching? Nobody was watching. They were too busy. What were they doing? The commission, you have, in case you guys don't know this, each corner has, in New York, they have at least 3 commission appointed officials that are watching the corner, making sure nothing underhand is being done, right? They have 2, not 1, but 2 ringside physicians, 1 for each corner, and then you got your commissioner there, or acting commissioner, whoever's going to be there. So you tell me none of them were watching this fight? They couldn't consult real quick. I get you. You got less than a minute to watch a tape, but you're telling me with today's technology, everybody in that place had a cell phone. You know how many recordings of that you could find around? Please. But yet, and here's another, and it's ironic that this was announced because the same commission, the New York State Athletic Commission, They're never going to let me in a fight here in New York again. I just got my relationship back with them. I don't give a fuck, really. But, the truth of the matter is, I'm an old man. When you get old, you get to say shit, And listen, I'll tell you right now, this is the last year I'm doing the show. I was going to save it and make an official announcement, but this is it. I've said it before. We're shooting to get through this year, but I doubt it's going to happen. So just letting you guys know. So ironically enough, the same commission, the New York State Athletic Commission, was the ones that were responsible for this whole Kingery, Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney fiasco. Remember? Now, Garcia passed the test or whatever. Then they came up with this, trace and blah, blah, blah. Well, they approved it. The New York State Athletic Commission approved the fight. And then because Bill Haney, the crybaby's dad, who's even more of a crybaby, complained and made such a hassle and caused so much trouble for the New York State Athletic Commission that they ended up suspending Ryan Garcia, who at the time, in my opinion, and is probably going to come back and be the guy everybody wants to see, a big money maker. So ironically enough, his suspension is going to be up. And guess where he's going to be fighting? Guess where he's going to be fighting? He's going to be fighting in New York, of course. His Excellency, Turki Al-Rashid, is promoting the show, and it's going to be held May 2nd in Times Square in New York. And guess who else is on the card? Devin Haney, of course. Yeah, and Teofimo Lopez. They're all fighting different people, but they're setting up a rematch for Haney and Garcia. So the fight was officially announced. It's taking place May 2nd in Times Square, like I said. Garcia is going to be fighting the Raleigh Romero for the regular. Here's those classless, most, I think the least valuable title of all, the World Boxing Association. They're going to be fighting for their regular WBA World Welterweight title. So obviously somebody paid those sanctioning fees. And Devin Haney, he's going to be fighting Jose Carlos Ramirez, and the WBO super lightweight champ Teofimo Lopez will be taking on Arnold Barbosa. So those are the three main fights outdoors, Times Square, May 2nd. And I'll be looking forward to those fights. Coach is saying, and in Alcatraz, listen, the truth of the matter is Turki Al-Rashid is doing everything that boxing needed. And you know what bothers me about that? Nothing that he's doing, because I think that as long as he stays doing what he's doing, it's going to be all positive. But you know what I don't like? I don't like the fact that other promoters are sitting there with their mouth shut and their asses on their hands. This is a time when other promoters could be stepping up and saying, yeah, well, we're going to get this fight and we're going to get that fight and try and put it together. No, instead, all the promoters, because they're so greedy, are turning around and they're kissing Turki Al-Rashid's ass, and they're all part of that deal, which, whatever. If it works out and it's better for the sport of boxing, I'm cool with it. Speaking about cool, we all know Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are going to be fighting, and they already started their worldwide promotional tour. It's going to be, the fight's taking place in London on April 26th, and according to the BBC and Eddie Hearn, it looks like he will be. Conor Benn will be getting his license back. If you recall, he was suspended for alleged steroid use as well. All right. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about today was the talk about returning to 15 rounds for championship fights. And Teofimo Lopez was a guy that said that he wanted to do this. And there's a lot of people that are split on this topic. If you recall, one of the main reasons that they went from 15 rounds down to 12 was safety concerns, and specifically after one of my favorite fighters of all time, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, knocked out Dooku Kim in round 14 of a scheduled 15-round fight on November 13th in 1982. 4 days after that, Dooku Kim passed away from brain hemorrhage. Boom Boom Mancini was still fighting 15-round fights. As a matter of fact, his last 15-round fight came 3 years later in his second fight with Livingstone Bramble, which took place in February of 1985. So there's a lot of controversy about this. Now, one of the sanctioning bodies who are saying they are looking into this and think it's a good idea is the WBA. Teofimo Lopez started it, and the WBA president, Gilberto Jesus Mendoza, said that they may approve 15-round fights in a trial way. Some other people, including the WBO and WBC, are 100% against it. And some other people in the sport of boxing, including His Excellency Turki Al-Rashid, said that they're against it. Another person that's against it was a physician and founder of VADA, which is the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association, Dr. Margaret Goodman, has also criticized the potential return to 15 rounds. The truth of the matter is that they started doing this in the 80s, right? And the last fight, it was implemented by the last sanctioning body, which was the IBF, and they were the last ones to follow the 15-12 rule, and that took place in 1988. So the last fight, I believe, took place in 1987. Just some statistics. There were a lot of deaths in the sport of boxing, prior to the 12 rounds. As a matter of fact, in the 50s, 1953, there was over 20 in 1 year, 22 to be exact. But since they changed to 12 rounds, there's still been a lot of fighters that have passed away from their beatings in the ring. The research shows that some fighter safety is not just whether it's 12 or 15 rounds. It's an array of things. Boxing is still not the most deadly sport in the world. It's actually number 8. The average to date is 1.3 deaths per 100,000. So that the odds are pretty much very high that it's not going to happen, but it does happen. One of the biggest things about boxing and whether the 15 rounds, it's not so much the number of rounds. It's what they have proven is that it's the constant pounding that you're taking. I mean, because if you look at MMA, they can kick you in the head, they can punch you while you're down and all this stuff, but it's over quick. In boxing, you're sustaining that beating 3 minutes, 2 minutes out of 3, or 1 minute out of 3, over 10 rounds, 12 rounds. And that is what causes these long-term effects. My opinion, and a lot of old timers are going to say, hey, back in the day, 15-round fights. Well, some of the people that are against 15-round fights are trying to say that fights today are more exciting because they're less rounds, forcing fighters to start quicker. I don't see that. I see fighters that don't even get going till the 4th or 5th round these days. So I don't think it's that. I think the positives of it would be to eliminate some of the BS decisions that we get all the time. If you have 15 rounds, it's an odd number of rounds. So the odds of it ending in a draw are much slimmer. Not that it couldn't, but it's much slimmer. I also feel that the emphasis would be more on training too. So the fighters that can train and are more diligent training that can go 15 rounds. There's other factors too in all sports, not just boxing. The safety factor is a concern. Well, unfortunately, and I don't want to sound barbaric here, but unfortunately, boxing is, like my man Alex always says, it's the hurt business, man. I mean, the truth of the matter is the object is to render your opponent unconscious. I mean, that's the object. If everyone is concerned about that, and I remember that there was some talk one time, oh, we should have everybody wearing headgear, or you can't hit above the neck, or what kind of bullshit is that? That's like, hey, look, you guys know, anybody that knows me knows I'm a football fan, and although I don't mind what the NFL did with the kickoff rule, because I like the UFL and, the USFL and all of that stuff. I don't mind the way they're kicking off now. But there was talk about doing away with the kickoffs and just start the ball at the 20. And the only kicks would be punts and field goals and extra points. I would have stopped watching the game because, you needed that, I felt. Well, I feel the same way about boxing. What do you mean you're not allowed to hit above the neck? Well, what kind of shit is that? Then outlaw boxing. Make it illegal. Forget about it. Move on to something else. Nobody's forcing you to become a boxer. You know what the risks are. And that's why these guys should be paid accordingly. It's a risk. I'll never forget Victor Ortiz. And I talked about it on this show. Victor Ortiz, after he got beaten up, they put the mic in front of him and they say, well, what's your thoughts, Mr. Ortiz? And they didn't say that, but I'm paraphrasing. And he says, no one should have to take a beating like that. No one should have to take a beating like that. Yeah, nobody, if you're a lawyer or if you're work at a convenience store, or if you have any job, construction worker, you work in front of a computer, an office guy, a plumber, a carpenter, they shouldn't take it. But when you sign up to be a boxer, yeah, that's kind of part of it, no? I mean, if you're going to be a boxer, you got to assume you're going to get hit. If you're going to play football, you're going to get tackled. You're going to get tackled. You're going to get blocked. That's part of it. If you don't want that, or if you don't want to incur the risk, don't do it. Nobody's forcing you. It's not like the gladiator days when you had no choice. You were either going to get killed by a lion or you were going to fight somebody. It's not like that now. What we can do, and in my opinion, if they did go to 15 rounds, I think the burden falls on who? Who do you think the burden should fall on? In my opinion, I'll tell you who. The ringside physicians, the cornermen, and the referees. They're the ones in the action. If you're a referee or if you're a cornerman, and cornermen are extremely guilty of this. These corner guys are real tough for their fighters, while the fighters are taking the beating. As a cornerman, if you're a fighter and you're watching this right now, do me a favor. Surround yourself with people that actually give a fuck about you, because most of these guys are looking at you as a big dollar sign. And that's why a lot of these managers and promoters and trainers, to a degree, because today trainers there's a lot of non-trainers, there's a lot of rah-rah men, and there's a lot of trainers/managers out there, and they protect the fighter, protect the O. And what do they do? What do they do, boys and girls? They get you to that cash out fight. Now, when I say cash out fight, that's that big money fight that everybody gets paid back. And now, should that fighter win, now it's gravy, man. Now everybody's going to make some money. But if the fighter loses, at least you didn't lose any money. And, the fighter can go do what he wants. If you're a fighter, surround yourself with people that truly care. And it's hard to find, I know. But the truth of the matter is you need to follow the people. You need to surround yourself with the people that care and listen to them. If a person that cares about you and you're in a fight and you're getting your fanny beat and, they're telling you they're going to stop the fight, don't argue with them. Don't make it, don't ruin your relationship with a trainer that's telling you he's going to stop that fight because you're getting hurt, because they see it. All right. And I think if the burden fell more on those trainers, and like I've said before, I believe trainers need to take some training on how to be a trainer, safety, all those things, and a referee. The one thing that I think has helped boxing more, and it has nothing to do with the 12 or 15 round fights, are the fact that referees do stop fights sooner than they used to, and they've always said, a guy like Ron Lipton, you say it's better to stop a fight sooner than later than too late. A lot of times referees, if you watch some of these old time fights, a lot of these referees, I can't believe that they let the fight go on. And before they had the rule change, remember, before the Jack Dempsey Gene Tunney fight, you could stand over the guy. As soon as he gets up, bam, you can start kicking the shit out of him again. So I mean, look, that we have come a long way in safety. And remember, there were fights before they were 15-round fights. There were 20-round fights, and 25-round fights. There was fights that they used to call fight to the finish, which meant that somebody was getting knocked out. I mean, all these things. Were they more dangerous? Shit, yeah. Of course they were. But I'm not so sure that I think that it's a difference really between a 12 and 15 round fight for safety. I think that the safety should come from the size gloves that they're wearing, which they monitor now. They didn't have that option then. The weight classes, I do believe that having same day weigh-ins would be beneficial. I don't like the day before because some bodies can rehydrate comfortably and others can't. So if you're killing yourself to cut weight, I think all these weight classes are also adding to it. I think if people were walking around at true weights, 147 pounder weighs in the morning of the fight at 147 pounds. Well, now you have a true welterweight fighting that night. Okay. What we're having today is a guy weighs in the night before at 147. Fight night, he's 160. And if his opponent can't do the same thing, which a lot of them can, so really we're having a welterweight fight. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been ringside and I look at the fighters and I'm going, they're lightweights. They look like light heavyweights in there, because of the rehydration. So a couple of safety things they could take is, hey, let's go back. If they want to have the 15 rounds and make the fights, take it out of corrupt judges or inept judges, and you want to have 15-round fights, which is also, I think, the more talented fighters would potentially benefit from the longer fight, especially boxers. So I guess that would lean towards a style which might not be conducive to the majority of the fans. But I think some of the safety things that you could add, rather than just saying 12 rounds versus 15, 12 is safer than 15. I think that same day weigh-ins, the reduction of weight classes, maybe they don't have to go to the original 8, because I will admit light heavyweight to heavyweight is, 25 pounds. I mean, that's really before the cruiserweight division. That was the biggest jump. But fewer weight divisions, same day weigh-ins, and qualified people that are involved, trainers, ringside doctors that are not afraid to stop a fight, a referee that's not afraid to wave off a fight. I mean, how many times have you watched a fight, when, you're watching a fight and you see a referee wave off a fight and you're like, what are they doing? He was fine. Well, you're not looking in his eyes like the referee is. And he sees his eyes rolling back in his head. And the guy's drooling and he can't even talk to him, but he looks good on TV. I mean, come on. Even I sit ringside for fights. And there's times when, I see a fighter and I'm like, he's out on his feet, and the referees, still letting him go, and you got to be careful. Safety first, I mean, what else can you do, but that's my thoughts on all of this. Love it saying 20 rounds. What? Yeah. I think the last 20 round, well, Coach, I'm sure you could look it up real quick. The last 20 round fight wasn't really that long ago. I think it was in the 50s or maybe even 60s. You know, you look at. I talk about this fight all the time, but Benny Kid Paret against Gene Fulmer was one of the most vicious fights I ever saw. And although and the commissions again, the commissions, if there's a knockdown or a knockout or a very fight that was brutal, the commission will put a fighter on a suspension, right? So the fighter technically is not even allowed to train until that suspension is up. Well, Benny Kid Paret and Gene Fulmer fought. Really, it was Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler for 10 rounds, right? It was. I have it up on our Rumble account. If you haven't seen it, just send me an email. I'll send you the link. But brutal fight. As a matter of fact, we called it. The late great Sal Rocky Senecola and myself. We were able to rebroadcast some. Also, the late Steve Lott gave us permission to rebroadcast some of these fights, and that was one of them. And it was part of a show that we did called Boxing Revisited, and it was a fantastic fight, brutal as hell. And the thing was, neither one of us, Sal or myself, had ever seen that fight prior to us calling it. So we were calling it like it was live, and we were reacting like it was live, and it was brutal. And less than 3 weeks later, or it was exactly 3 weeks later, Benny Kid Paret stepped in the ring and died from the beating that he sustained in his next fight. And Gene Fulmer was never the same fighter after that fight either. He fought, I believe, 3 more times and was never the same fighter. Now, if the safety rules were in effect then, the way they are now, both of those fighters would have been put on suspension and their bodies would have had a chance to heal. And who knows, Benny Kid Paret might not have passed away, and coach is saying fighters are still dying and it hasn't been a 15 fight in decades. Well, that's my point. I don't think it's so much the 15 rounds. I think we've learned that there's other precautions that fighters can take. I don't believe it's a 15-round fight. I think that the 15 rounds, although it seems the majority of the people don't want it, I think that, from a perspective of a game plan, I think 15-round fights would open up some doors for fighters. Especially, if they're in with, let's say, like I said, I know it wouldn't be fair, but the styles, if they're in with a guy that, shoots his load in the first 5 or 6 rounds and they can, pretty much withstand that, then the later rounds they could come on and win the fight, So I see some positives with it. I could see the negatives, but I also feel that some of the safety issues could be remedied by having more qualified people around the fighters, controlling the fights. And I mean specifically the corners of the fighters, the referees in charge, and the ringside physicians. There's times when there were fights that I'm shocked. I mean, the Tim Tszyu fight against Fundora was a great example. How they let that fight continue? I mean, he lost a pint of blood, for God's sakes. I mean, yes, it was in the top of his head, but it was streaming down his face, and the blood was like a movie. The blood was shooting out so much. It was terrible. It was like a horror flick. I mean, there's times when a doctor has to make the decision. And, like I said earlier, it's better to make a decision too soon than too late. And, coach is saying here, MRIs. Well, look, I've made this statement. Look, we've been doing this show. We're in our 22nd year, okay? And a lot of things that I have said, and I wish I could tell you exactly which episodes to go back. But I'm telling you, if you had time to go back and watch, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but I will tell you, I predicted the streaming services, okay, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, all right? And one of the other things was I said, now, Coach mentions MRIs. Now, one good thing about New York State Athletic Commission is their medical requirements are extremely high. Okay. The top commissions, New York State Athletic Commission, New Jersey Athletic Commission, Nevada State Athletic Commission, to name the top three, in my opinion. And I guess you could sprinkle in the liberal California commission too. Actually, I like Andy. He was good. He was the commissioner of Georgia at one time. But anyway, those requirements are very high, and they require MRIs, blah, blah, blah. Well, an MRI is great, except you need something to compare it to. In other words, if a fighter gets into a fight and they have an MRI, or if they don't have an MRI, if they're not fighting in a commission state like New York that requires it or whatever, and they get into trouble, and then they call for an MRI, the damage may not be picked up, or there may have been a flaw in the brain scan that would say that there's a problem. In other words, my idea years ago was that I believe that before a fighter can turn pro, they have to have an MRI, not to prove that they're sane, like, why do you want to be a boxer, but to have something to compare an MRI to. A doctor always wants to compare an MRI. If you're getting tested for something, they want to compare it. They want to see if anything's changed. Is this different than that one? You'd have to assume that an MRI that you would get when you're starting to be a pro would be considered your normal MRI. Your MRI and my MRI might be two different brain scans. They might look differently. But a doctor, if they only have one to go by, they're going to go by what the textbook MRI is supposed to be like, right? But if a fighter gets an MRI before they can be assigned a pro license, at least they have it. Okay, coach is saying, the fighter pays for the first one when he gets his license. Okay, true. All right. And then people have always said to me, well, Bill, fight, how much MRIs cost? A fighter can't afford that. Okay, well, here's what you could do. You could sign an agreement with a promoter to pay for it, and sign up with a promoter, sign a short-term contract, agree to fight, 5 fights, your first 5, 6 fights, whatever, with this promoter, and not, of course you're going to get a purse, but, as part of the commitment to that promoter, he's going to give you the money for the MRI. Listen, it could work out. If you want to be a professional boxer, you do what you got to do. If you want to be a carpenter, you go buy tools. If you want to be a mechanic, you buy tools. You want to be a doctor, you go to school. Everything. You can't just get into a profession without some kind of education. Even boxers, even if they didn't have to pay for an MRI, they have to get an education on how to throw a punch, right? So, look, we could talk about this all the time, but there are plenty of safeguards to take that if you really want to make the sport safe and not ruin the integrity of the sport, take the safety precautions. But first and foremost, just to close out, the move by Steve Willis to basically retract his initial automatic response of Tank Davis taking a glove to the canvas, which is a knockdown, and then changing his mind, and then letting them clean his face off, and having his corner up on the ring apron. Why Tank Davis wasn't disqualified or at least called a knockdown, and then to have the New York State Athletic Commission to say, "Oops, sorry, we have no data," and then to have the WBA say, "What was wrong? We didn't see nothing wrong," is total bullshit. And it saddens me because, it's not going to be the last time that we talk about this, and it certainly wasn't the first. Hey, listen, boys and girls, I appreciate you tuning in. I know I got a little foul mouth today. I apologize for that, but this is a topic that really got me, and it seems to be the same commission over and over and over. And you know what? I've always said, if a state doesn't want boxing, and they can't produce a qualified commission, and if they can't pick qualified judges and qualified referees, then maybe they should outlaw boxing. Move it on to another state that wants it and cares about it. Hey, listen, make sure you tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby. Thanks for tuning in, boys and girls. See you next time.